Hello, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about vinyl records. In this video, we're going to go over some of the history. We're going to go over why people might prefer to listen to vinyl records over CDs or over reel-to-reel or over digital music. And we're going to kind of go over how I feel about vinyl, my thoughts about vinyl, and why I enjoy listening to it. So a little bit of history first. The modern 12-inch LP, which stands for long play or long playing record, kind of came around in like the late 1950s. Before that, you had 10-inch records that were a little shorter per side. The 12-inch LP allowed you to fit a full-length album across the two sides of a single vinyl disc. So that really kind of changed music and how music was recorded, how bands and artists thought about their music. So, for example, you used to have limited tracks and limited time. You still had limited time, but now with a full-length album, you could kind of delve into more experimental ideas. Bands could, become more creative in the studio, more creative with their writing and recording, and really just kind of allowed them to make the music that they always wanted to make. And a lot of that, too, was recording technology, multi-track tape machines coming around in the late 50s, early 60s, and editing and cutting and different takes, of different things being spliced together. So a lot of it was studio stuff, but being able to fit a longer finished product and ship it out to people was very compelling for artists as well as for the record label. So vinyl, since then, 58, 59 or so, hasn't really changed. It's still the same, and, you can go buy a new Taylor Swift record now that's made pretty much the same way as it was back then. It's the same length. If it's a longer album, it may be split across 2 or 3 or even 4 discs. But ultimately, the process is the same, and the process of listening is the same. Now, why do people listen to vinyl still? Like, vinyl had a big resurgence 10 years ago or so. And vinyl sales have really shot up recently. And I think a lot of that is, digital music is great, but it also really kind of affected how we listen to music. It became so convenient that it was almost too convenient in a way. And, you'd put music on in the background, do the dishes, or vacuum out your car. You'd throw on a pair of headphones, pop a song on, whether, on your iPod in the 2000s, now we're streaming music from smartphones. But digital music kind of removed the organic nature of listening to music. And don't get me wrong, I love digital music. It's super convenient. It's super clean. It always sounds the same, which was not the case in the days of tape, whether it was reel-to-reel or cassettes, or back in the days of, when vinyl was originally kind of in the golden age in the 60s and 70s, and that was the primary format that people would listen to music. Every time you play a tape, and also every time you play a record, the sound quality degrades ever so slightly. It's the same thing with like watching a movie on a VHS tape versus a DVD or versus, streaming it from Netflix or something. Every time you watch it, it degrades ever so slightly. And you won't be able to notice it, but if you're playing a record or watching a tape or listening to a cassette over and over and over the course of many years, eventually it's not going to sound the same as a brand new unplayed copy would. So every play matters more, and it really helps you kind of engage with the music better. So I guess a different way that you can look at it, and why I kind of enjoy vinyl, is the full-size artwork A lot of times if it's a gatefold record, you can look inside. There's, liner notes, sleeve notes. Actually, let me grab one. All right, so we've got Cream Wheels of Fire here, and it's cool, kind of late 60s psychedelic cover, but you can really see all of the detail in it at this size. And on the back, you've got all the songs listed. But what's great is on the inside, you get this super awesome artwork that you would never really get if you were just listening to this album on your phone, and you get some information, where it was pressed, where it was mixed and recorded. You get information about the band members and, who wrote what. And it's a really cool format to just kind of read through while you're listening to the record. And a lot of records they'll have full lyrics printed out on an inner sleeve or something. Sometimes there's full lyrics printed out on the inside of the gatefold or on the back of the album, which is really cool. You don't get that with digital music. Another reason is because it's more of a tactile experience. It feels more organic. You're choosing a record to play. You're not just choosing what to listen to. You're picking out where you want to be transported for the length of that album. So if I want to go to Abbey Road Studios in London in 1973 and I want to listen to, some smooth psychedelic music, I'll pull out Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. I'll be there for 43 minutes or whatever the length of that album is. So that's such a cool experience to me. And also, getting up halfway through the record, flipping it over, hearing a new side, there's just something about it. There's something human about it. There's something a lot more engaging. And it's something to still hold music in your hand in 2026. Now, I also love digital music. I think it's very convenient. But if I have the time and, I just want to sit down and relax, I'll put on a couple albums, and it's just a very enjoyable thing to listen to on that format. Now, a lot of people in the audiophile community will say, well, vinyl sounds better. Well, why would you ever listen to digital? It's harsh, it's compressed, it just sounds thin and lifeless. You should just listen to vinyl. That should be your entire music collection should be on vinyl and nothing else. And then you get the people that are saying, well, vinyl sounds terrible. It's crackly and it's not very enjoyable to listen to because the sounds are distracting and you don't get a lot of that detail. And both of those things are true because vinyl doesn't sound better or worse than digital, streaming from your phone, listening to a CD, whatever. It just sounds different. There's no better or worse. There's just different. And it's kind of just depends on the mood, If I want something that's a bit more engaging, a bit warmer sounding, and I kind of want the pops and the crackles in the background, I'll throw on a vinyl record, and it's, again, go back to the tactile experience. It's very enjoyable. And just as like a collection standpoint, it's great to get into collecting vinyl. I mean, there's a lot of people that collect vinyl records and don't even play them. I don't personally get that because I love playing my vinyl, but at the same time, that's fair too. People love collecting it. They think it's cool. They think it's a neat thing to gather a bunch of music on this format, and that's great. I personally like to play them and listen to them, so I look for that when I'm buying a record. But I think vinyl's a great format. I think everyone should try it and really sit down and listen to music and kind of get engaged in the album. That's the other thing is with digital music, kind of starting with CDs, you could just skip through tracks and, go next. I only want to play this one, or build complete playlists out of, just your favorite songs off of specific albums. whatever that may be. Vinyl, you can't do that. And I kind of see that as a benefit because you're kind of forced to experience the entire album front to back with a vinyl record. I mean, you can sit there with the cartridge and just kind of pick out what song you want to land on and just try and listen to that. But it's so much more difficult to do that. Like, no one really bothers doing that. I mean, I don't really bother doing that. But ultimately, I think that's kind of a benefit because, you know, an album, you know, especially stuff from the 60s and 70s and even stuff from now, it hasn't really changed. An album is just a picture of the artist's life and experiences during that period of time, you know, and if you're only pulling, you know, one track at a time, you don't get to experience the whole thing. Take, you know, Dark Side of the Moon, for example. The whole album kind of just flows one song into another, and every track represents a different theme of, you know, human emotion. If you're just listening to Money because that was the hit, that's great, but you're not really getting the experience of that album. That's just one part, and with, you know, removed from the rest of the tracks on that album, you have a very different feeling of that song versus when it's combined with the whole album and you're playing it front to back all the way through. So hopefully that inspired you to maybe try out vinyl if you haven't already. If you have a vinyl collection and you don't play it, maybe pick up a turntable and, you know, set up a little system and start listening to your records. It's a great experience. And if you're like me, who has been collecting vinyl for years and playing records, well, that's great. I keep doing that. You know, I always love searching for more records, you know, support local record stores. They try really hard to stay in business, and, you know, they put in a lot of work. So I like supporting the little guy and the small businesses like that. So that's all for today. Thank you, and I'll see you next week.